This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lorraine's, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We have an absolutely jam-packed show today. Checking in first or second time? It might be the first time this year. That'd be a travesty if it was. Miles Sonar Berghoff from the James River out there in Virginia. And I was actually talking with Miles before we had him on. You know, they fish practice for 2 days, and then they have an off day, and then they get right after the thing with the Derby. And I said, man, what is it like 2 days on the James River, 345 miles, all the creeks, all the canals, the twists, the turns, the tides, the long runs, and the $6 gas. And he admitted, he said, hey, you kind of got your hands full on this one. So we're going to check in with Miles, and then we're going to get to one of my favorite people in the industry, which is the Golden Ram, Cliff Pirch, having a heck of a year in the top 10 in the Angler of the Year standings on the Bassmaster Elite Series, headed to the Northern Swing. That's the good news. The bad news is he's got to track down Brandon Polinick, who's got a 100-point lead on him if he wants a shot at the Angler of the Year. But Cliff's been doing a lot of interesting stuff during the offseason, a lot of product development, working on some new smallmouth shapes, some designs for plastics, and spending some time in the, I don't know if do they have woods up there in Arizona? Is the mountains? The mountains. He's been spending some time in the mountains, so we will have Cliff Pirch on in the second part of the show. But let's not keep the man waiting. I believe he is actually on the banks of the James River right there, and that is none other than Miles Burghoff. There it is right there. Miles, what's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Thank you for jumping on BTL. Like I said, unique format for the MLF Pro Circuit this year. 2 days of practice, 1 day off, and then the tournament starts. The 1 day off thing is something I know Bass has flirted with in the past. FLW used to do it religiously for it. The guys seem to be split, but what are your thoughts on having Wednesday to take care of business before things kick off on Thursday?
I love having the day off. I've always liked the day off. And in fact, we had the 2 days of practice last year. That was the first year, and a day off. And I think it's good because you get to dial everything in. The day off goes by super quick. So I don't even know how we did it without a day off in between. But I certainly would like 3 days of practice, especially for a fishery as vast as the James River. I mean, this place is massive. It is really hard to break down in 2 days of practice.
Yeah, I talked about that in the opening, and obviously if you listen to BTL, you know, the James River near and dear to my heart, even though the results haven't shown it. I think it's one of the most diverse and probably underrated fisheries out of all of the tournament fisheries that all of the different organizations go to. But how did you kind of decide that? I think you're taking off there, and you look at any of what's gone on there, and you can catch fish without starting the big motor, and you can run 80 miles before you make your first cast, and all along the way you can fish 3 or 4 different ecosystems and then throw in the tide.
That has been one of the biggest struggles, is because I haven't been able to find a real difference between fishing upriver and fishing all the way down to the Chickahominy or past that. I feel like I've caught fish everywhere, and they've all been, around the same size. There's a crazy amount of 12 and 13 inchers in this fishery. It is super, super, healthy. And so, it's, you just essentially got to pick an area that you feel more comfortable with. I think this is one of those fisheries that you essentially just consider your strengths first and foremost. If you like to flip, you put yourself in an area that you like to flip, that looks good to you, and you just go fishing. Because you can find something that you feel comfortable in anywhere on this river.
One of the things that's always scared me about the James is there's places where you're like, man, I'd really like to go there, but I'm not a super like Bill Nye Science Guy tide expert. I've heard like, hey, like this is a great creek if you don't unzip your boat or lose your lower unit on the random pieces of metal, barges, and giant sand stuff that's there. As a guy, I mean, you're doing this for your living. You've got to explore some of those places. Is it just like close your eyes, pray, trim her high, and let her fly? Or do you kind of pick and choose your battles when it comes to exploring out of the way areas?
Man, with 2 days of practice, it's hard to go into, and explore new places. Dude, it's just not a year that you want to risk, losing a lower unit or breaking something. So I'm a little bit more cautious. I tend to idle into a lot of these spots. I'm going to move these, throwing a hammer around. But yeah, dude, I'm a little bit more cautious. I take my time and really, just figure out if I can run into a spot. Look who's coming up to me right now. 2 for the price of 1.
Hi.
Oh, it's Ski Reese.
Yeah, we're picking up trash. What are you guys doing?
I'm doing BTL. It's a podcast about bass fishing.
What's that?
I'm doing BTL. It's a podcast about bass fishing.
Really?
Yeah, based out of Oklahoma.
Yeah. So I just come over.
Dude. Well, that's cool.
How sweaty this man is right now.
That's some live action right there. Ski Reese.
There's whiskey bottles. There's a lot of beer bottles. We got all kinds of stuff in here. So, Major League Fishing, Steven orchestrated. We're doing a conservation garbage cleanup, and that's it. All right, back to work. You guys have fun.
Fantastic. Good job, Skeet.
Appreciate that.
You missed a spot. Skeet, right here. No, I'm just kidding.
Was that orchestrated, Miles?
No, it was.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Aimed it. I'm not sitting here. Do you mind if I pick up trash while I'm doing this right now?
Yeah. Have at it. But you brought up something interesting. You think the 2 days of practice actually groups guys up because you have less room to really explore and find stuff out of your way?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In this format, and I just essentially am fishing some of the high percentage areas that are well known. I mean, you really don't have a whole lot of time to explore, like you said.
All right. I got to address the elephant in the room here. You're coming off of 3 really, really strong years on the Tackle Warehouse Pro circuit. You've made the pro circuit title, 13th, the 15th, the 14th, but you're struggling this year, man. You're an 82nd in the Angler of the Year. Now, you did have a good stop at Pickwick, which is
right,
as expected. I mean, kind of where you're from there, but otherwise, kind of an unsonar-like year so far through the first 4 stops.
Yeah, and it's 100% my fault. I take credit for. And really, I've had 2 okay ones. I don't even know if I'd call Sam Rayburn. I finished 55th, I think, an okay one, or I wouldn't call it a good one. So I've had 2 okay ones and 1 bomb and 1 that was close to a bomb. So, if you look at my average finishes for last year, which was my slowest year prior to this year, I'm still right on track. If I get 2 top 50 finishes, I'll still be able to make the championship. But I learned a lot of things about myself in the last, 2 years, really, because last year I don't think that I, did bad enough to really recognize some of the problems that were coming up. One of the things is, the more people you meet on tour, the more you tend to talk and kind of share information, which we're allowed to do, and you think that that's kind of the way to go. And I've learned, especially this year after Guntersville, that I got here, to where I'm at and the success that I've had through my own, just going out there and fishing the way I like to fish. and not listening to any of that. And I kind of got away from that, and my finishes started to show. I started doing some things that I just couldn't explain really. And, was thinking about what other people were doing. And I think that's the kiss of death, man, for some anglers, like myself. I can't take that information and translate it into, making good decisions on the water. So I don't know how I'll do here at the James. You never know. But I'm at least going to do it on my own. I'm going to succeed or fail on my own. And that's the way I like it.
Well, you went really deep there with that answer, and I thought there's maybe an easier solution, and I've actually been chatting with your number one fan about it, and he said, "Well," I said, haven't been around to give the pep talks throughout the year. I mean, ever since Mark Jefferies became your number one fan, you've been catching him. So I thought, what better way than to catch up with the man down in Texas at a senior professional bowling event.
Yeah,
then get a pep talk before the James River from none other than Mark Jefferies.
Miles, what's up?
What's up, Mark?
Hey, well, Matt got it wrong. I'm not in Texas. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, sorry. They're neighbors. They touch.
They're neighbors. Yeah.
Dude, that sounded weird.
Right. I'm just going to jump on here for a few minutes. It's time to pick it up a notch. And just remember, I've said this for a zillion years. This bowling thing and this fishing thing, a lot of stuff's in common. All right. And I learned something from my first stop yesterday here in Albuquerque. I finished ninth. I bowled really well. I got a check. But my very first shot, I look over to my left, and there's Walter Ray Williams. All right. The GOAT. Greatest of all time.
It's like the Rick Clunn of bowling.
Do what?
Rick Clunn of bowling.
I mean, he's more like Kevin Van Dam of bowling.
Okay.
He really is. All right. Anyway, so I look to my right, and there's Tom Hess, who's probably been the best PBA 50 player the past 5 years on the senior tour. And I said to myself, you know what, man? This isn't about Walter Ray. This isn't about Tom Hess. This is about me. And if you control what you can control and just worry about your game, makes all the difference in the world. Don't look at the scores. Don't look at the scoreboard. Don't look at anything else. Just focus on what the task at hand is with you and understand what your game is all about. You're going to do better, man. And it worked. And I had 3 horrific breaks yesterday that just didn't go my way, or I'd be bowling this morning in the final round. But it is what it is. But, man, that helped a lot. Just thinking about what's important in my game and what I have to do to execute. And Matt, I'll tell you this right now. All right, 8 games yesterday. How many bowling balls do you think I used yesterday? Different
7.
bowling balls.
7.
You're dead on. 7 different bowling balls.
Really? I got it right?
Game.
Well, I saw you load up about 25, so I just cut that number in third.
Yeah, 7 it was. So, Matt had the idea, hey, let's get you on for a few minutes, give everybody an update, but kind of give Miles a little pep talk here. It's where he can kick it up a notch. And, hey, man, I'm still a Miles fan. I'm always going to be a Miles fan. But kick it up this week with what you got going on. And just wanted to wish you well the remainder of the season. And, I miss being in that chair a little bit every now and then. But I'm loving what I'm doing. And do well this week, man.
Thank you, Mark. Those words mean a lot because it's so true. In this sport, tournament fishing is so personal that you really, your success is really dictated by what's going on in here. And if you got too much going on, if you got too many things that are taking you away from the process, you really start having some tough days out there. So I feel like I've kind of pulled myself out of that. Regardless of how the next 2 events go, I feel good getting back to my roots and just focusing on what I do best, as opposed to getting information. And the guys that I was sharing information with, they were telling the truth. I have full confidence that everything was we were sharing information very, very in a mutually beneficial way. But it just doesn't work very well. What success and failure is dictated by what's in here in your head.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I know, Miles, you are, like I said, getting stuff ready. I appreciate you jumping on. I want to keep Mark on just for a brief moment because I do have a bowling to fishing comparison for all those on. You're welcome to stick around for it. All I'm going to do is read the Facebook post that Mark made last night, and I 100% can relate to all of the non-fishing people when they read fishing posts that go, huh? Like, you talk about it. But, like, you have, like, a mix of friends and family on there. And, like, the fishermen are like, oh, he dumped a 5 boat side and blah, blah, blah. Like, that all makes sense. But then if you compare it to, like, a bowling post, I could see how everyone's like, oh, that guy's a fish dork. Because it's, like, foreign language. So, like I said, you could click off at any time. But I'm just going to read this post. This is Mark's post from last night. Man, I realize the Randy Peterson Stone 8 story gets a little old. Well, obviously. But today I left 3 Stone 8s all surrounded by X's and 2 in 1 game. The Stone 8s did not help the cause to make the cut in the Albuquerque PBA 50 regional, finished 9th, plus 92, earned a check and confirmed the obvious. I have to throw better to make the cut. Gary Skidmore center is very nice, onward. And then a screenshot of something that it makes 0 sense to me, but it's a bunch of numbers and names. I said every time I make a fishing post, all the like people from church and my childhood and youth and hockey are all like, what the hell does that mean? But hey, there you go. There's Mark Jefferies bowling update with the Stone 8 and Gary Skidmore.
Yeah. Well, I am on, and Matt, you're going to be shocked. I'm actually going to drive 7 hours back home. I decided to make the trip home for a day. I'm actually going to bowl league on Thursday night. Then Friday morning, we are off to Lubbock for the PBA 50 Senior U.S. Open, and then the Odessa stop after that. So 7 hours. It's a horrible drive from Albuquerque back to Oklahoma City. It's one of those areas where you just hope that you don't break down, because there is nothing anywhere around where you're at. So that's kind of the plan. But Miles, man, I wish you the best. Good start to my little retirement quest here. And we'll see what happens beginning on Sunday in Lubbock.
Mark, it was so good to see you, man. Thanks for the words.
All right, man. Do well this week.
Good luck, Miles. Mark, drive safe. All right, see you guys.
Matt, see ya.
Go help Skeet.
I am right now. All right,
see ya. All right, that was Miles Berghoff getting ready for the 5th stop of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit on the James River, which I'll be watching very closely. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, it is time to catch up with the Golden Ram Cliff Pirch, off to one of the best starts of his Elite Series career, heading to 3 fisheries that he should be able to make a run at this thing. So it is BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back right after this.
Your key to better fishing this season is Elite FS, now available at a new lower price. Get Elite FS 9 today for $9.99, and we'll throw in a C-Map reveal chart, our premium mapping solution, for free. Elite FS works with all state-of-the-art Lowrance sonar, from chirp, side scan, and down scan imaging with fish reveal to high-resolution active target live sonar. Elite FS9 and C-Map reveal. Offer ends August 31st.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
We're just about ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Get in order.
Once again, Drew Cook is in the driver's seat.
When you're catching fish for a living, you can't let a little cold, rain, heat, humidity, or anything else get in the way of a payday. I wear APCO. Any fish, any water.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Welcome back, BTL on a Wednesday. And that last commercial right there was Brandon Polnick, current Angler of the Year leader, got through the last event on Pickwick without having to leave early to have his first baby. Well, he wasn't having it. Tiffany was. His wife was having it, their first child. But as a result, he built a little bit of cushion for guys like our next guest, the Golden Ram, Cliff Pirch, to try to track down. So, Cliff, are you in Arizona? Are you at your home in Arizona?
I'm in Arizona. Yeah, I came into town and so I had to find a little place where I could get some lighting and be able to talk to you. But I got to spend a few weeks at home, and it's nice to get home and kind of recuperate, get some things organized. I drove all my gear back. You know, it was kind of a hard decision whether to drive it home or just fly home. But I really wanted my boat to be ready for the smallmouth leg of the season and just get it smallmouth ready. You know, we just finished up some real big bait events, and just want to change the gear out. So I really wanted to be able to kind of dial in my stuff and be ready for this next section.
Well, you had a little hiccup at Lake Fork, but other than that, 38th, 8th, 11th, 9th, and 22nd, and it's an outside chance, but you're kind of in the thick of this thing, heading up north in the Angler of the Year conversation. Has to feel good to really be fishing with a lot still ahead of you on the table.
Yeah, well, I really like what it looks like on the schedule. They're all places where I've had top tens and had a chance to win before. And that doesn't necessarily mean you'll do good, but I know how to do good there. So I'm excited about that. And I do like the fisheries. I like the opportunities, but those guys will catch them really well. They're all really good up there too. And they've just been having a phenomenal year. Pretty hard to, run them down, especially after throwing in a bomb at Fork. But I'm really thankful. I'm still having a great season. I'm really solid for the Classic, and who knows, I might be able to move up and gain some back on that Angler of the Year race. But there's pretty good gap in there, but still, 3 great events, and maybe I'll tighten it up some.
I remember covering the 2018 event at Lake Oahe when we went out there, and no one had any clue what to expect out there. It was really a wild card that Bass threw into the schedule that time. I remember as that tournament went on, I think that's forgotten in there is like David Fritz had those suckers dialed in and it kind of dwindled on him. But you were one of the guys that really seemed like it was 100% up your alley and that you could taste blood in that event. You have to be excited to get back there. And do you think 4 years later, you're still going to feel that same familiarity that you did back in 2018?
Well, I hope so. I like the fishery, and I like what goes on there. That time that was really a tournament. That was like a free tournament to win for me. I really blew it that first day of that event, and I had something so good that I was quitting fishing. You know what I mean? It was like I'd catch them and just leave them alone until the last day, and really, unfortunately, I made a decision that first day to come in. That we had a couple of these crazy thunderstorms that like are unique to that part of the country. I mean, dangerous. And during practice, I watched two decks get ripped off a house and roof trees get blown out of the ground and when those storms came through. So when it came in during the tournament that first day, I had about 7 pounds in the well, and I decided that I didn't think that most of the field would make it back to the check-in. So I decided to go in just to make sure I had something to show for day one. And what really happened is the storm came through, blew through, and passed about the time everybody needed to drive to weigh-ins. And really, so it just put me way down. I think I was maybe 87th or 84th or something that first day. And, then I just crushed them the next 3 days. But it was like a free one to win. And if there was anything you could do wrong, I just did it that first day. But, those are things that you look back at and, it's frustrating, but again, it was a great tournament and I really like the fishery. So I'm looking forward to going there again.
West Coast vibe to it. Yes. No. Remind you of some of the desert lakes.
It's such a weird place. It was beautiful. I mean, it was green when we were there. They said, a lot of times the grass is brown and it's not, but when we went, it was like looking at Ireland. I mean, it was a really amazing scene, and, kind of a sportsman's paradise. I really liked the area and it's just really neat. But the lake, the fish were kind of coming off the spawn. They weren't quite out really good yet. And, it was a real question mark because we didn't know, there's not much information on it. We didn't really know what we were getting into. And it seemed like in practice that it was kind of a Lake Meadish kind of place where there just wasn't much of a population of fish. And, it just turned out that they are there, but it was there was so many unknowns and it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? It was really pretty darn tricky getting going in that one. And so it was a real wild card. Like you said, it was a crazy event. We're going out of a different area, a long, long ways away from where we took off the last time. So, it'll change where you can fish. There's nowhere to get gas on the lake, not much, but, so it's such a big place that, I'm not sure you can even get to some of those places where I fished last time, but, it's got them. And, I really like going to those type of deals. So I'm excited about it. I did go there last summer. On the way home, I spent an extra 10 days at, St. Lawrence in Ontario after I didn't do as well. And I spent the next, several days at Lake Oahe on the way back and just to try to be better this time around. So I'm looking forward to going back and hopefully using some of those things. And I'm excited about it.
You mentioned Ontario, Thousand Islands and different ramps. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys are going out of Clayton instead of Waddington this time around at Thousand Islands. How much of a shakeup is that going to be?
Well, I don't think it'll change a lot of things. I think we went to a lot of the same areas last year. It just was a lot, you had to get gas and spend a lot more time driving, a lot less time fishing and manage, the variables of boat traffic and waves and weather. So going out of that lower end really just probably makes the weights go up a little bit and just more guys catch them. At least that's what I think. The whole place is really good, but when more guys can get to the lake and have just different varieties of ways to fish, I think it plays better. There's just more options out there for all the guys to do different, whatever. I remember Frank Talley, he cracked them on a chatterbait, in the lake. I mean, they're and smallmouth. Not, I know someone caught him. It was second place. He caught him. He caught him on a chatterbait in the river, but he was mostly getting largemouth.
Okay.
And but you know what I mean. There's just different options when you get down there, and I think being closer to that, it'll fish well for a lot of guys. It's not a great time, it's not really where they're set up well yet, but it's got them, and it'll take getting them. And last year, I mean, I'm looking at Taku half the time. He won, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm throwing at my rocks and catching 2.5 and 3.5 pounders. And, over at his rocks, they're 4 and 5 pounders, and we're talking to each other. That's just how maddening it can be there. One day you show up to your rocks and it's got giant ones, and the next day, it's got them, but they're not the fish that play in the tournament. You always catch them. Everyone will catch them, but 15 pounds does you zero. 20 plus, is where you got to be every day. And, there's a real small difference, and those fish move, and they set up, groups of them set up, and, rocks, different reefs and stuff like that where just minuscule differences. Like I said, I'm looking at Taku catching them, and I'm catching them just fine, but they're, mine are 3.5s and his are 4.5s and 5s. It's maddening. It's maddening, but that's how smallmouth do. They move. One day they're there, the next day they've moved to the next thing. When that current changes, you get a wind angle change. Sometimes they just set up on different things.
I'm curious. You're a smallmouth guy. You love that. You like the finesse fishing. You like doing it, but it seems like there's two camps of smallmouth guys. There's the guys who do one thing regardless, and they know like a drop shot. There's guys who drop shot or Ned rig, and that's pretty much all they do regardless. And then you've got the guys who are flies and spy baits and spinner baits and chatter baits, and they'll try shallow and they'll try deep. It seems to me like you're kind of a guy who goes, they bite this, they've always bit this, they're going to bite this in the future, and I'm sticking with this come hell or high water. Is that kind of how you approach the smallmouth, or are you really versatile in your offerings for them?
Well, I'm probably not going to get real tricky. There will be a number of ways. We watched KVD win it on a spy bait. We've seen, guys do well on a jerk bait. We've seen guys catch them on a chatter bait, all the different things. But I probably won't get real tricky. I've got a couple of baits, a couple of techniques, and I'll probably keep it real simple. I'm really excited about some new soft plastics from the Big Bite Baits guys. We needed something that would compete up north. Smallmouth are over sensitive, overdrawn to scent. And so we need a heavily scented bait to compete with some of those baits that work well when you go up north, and they've got it. So I'm really excited about it. We've been working on some shapes. I got a buddy here in town that's been helping me with some hand pours. We've got several little tricks that I think are just going to work really good. And I've been using them all year. The largemouth are really into it. I've caught a ton of largemouth fish in these new soft plastics. It's called Sensation. And I've got a 4.5 inch drop shot worm, just a straight tail. And, some of the favorite worms out west, they've gotten harder in their texture in the recent years. And I just felt like I needed something still had that hand pour softness, and when you can add that heavy scent factor, where you can kind of combine both worlds, I'm really excited about it. It really works well, and it's been working well for me this year. I think we got a little bit of it to kind of dabble with it, right at the end of the year last year, and I'm excited. It catches them, they like it. I have a lot of confidence in it, and so it's something that I'm really excited to go forward with.
I want to get into that because obviously Big Bite sponsors me in the opens. It sponsors BTL, so you hear stuff about what's going on. Like we went through the whole process with Brad Hallman of designing the BFE, the flipping bait. Neither of us had ever really seen the curtain pulled back on how that process works with the molds and the designs, and we can do that, we can't do that. And it's really cool to see it, to go, hey, here's a idea that we had or something that we need, and then boom, here it is in a package that's at like Academy, or that you can buy at Tackle Warehouse or anywhere. And I'd heard for the last couple of years, Cliff's on like a Northern Odyssey, like figuring out these new smallmouth baits. So like, how does that come about then? So like, you basically are like, hey, so like Big Bite's one of your soft plastic sponsors, or your soft plastic sponsor. And you're like, this is a niche that needs to be filled that isn't. I can assist in this. This is what I have envisioned. Like, how does that whole thing work to where you end up with prototypes and working on it and saying yes and no?
Well, I think you're familiar with this. You do the same thing, but I've spent my entire life fishing and in fishing. And I'm not talking about weekend fishing. I'm talking about fishing 7 days and waking up the 8th day and saying, let's go fishing. It's something where you kind of get a sense of what works and what you need to have, and what things are gimmicky and what things work. And so, you really get a sense of how you want something to be when you start putting these ingredients into what it takes to make a good drop shot worm. I want a really, really pliable, really soft worm. I want the buoyancy. I want the colors. I want the perfect shape. I want the scent. Now we can add this scent that's super good. And I mean, I have so much confidence in it now, just from using it. I mean, I've caught a couple thousand fish on it over the last maybe 9 to 10 months, so I'm really excited about it. But yeah, you just, by doing it a long time, you really get a sense for what it takes to, what the fish want, what kind of shapes and sizes. And again, in tournament fishing, you're looking for bites, you're looking for size, you're looking for hookup and landing ratios. So all these little factors need to go into that. And there's a million bait designers in the world, but a lot of them don't spend enough time fishing to really know what you need, and leave some gaps in those things. So I'm pretty excited because the Big Bite guys have been giving us an opportunity to mess with some of this stuff, and it just flat catches them is all I can say.
So like you were on 1,000 Islands for 10 days after the tournament, nothing. You're honing your craft. They say, hey, we're designing this. We send it. You call up and you say, hey, this stuff sucks. There needs more this. It needs more that. It needs to be softer. It needs to be bigger. It needs to be, and then they go back, and then whatever, then you're at a different lake, or you're in Arizona, and they say, well, what do you think about this? And then you say, this works, but this and it's just a refining process over and over until you get one and it's right.
Yeah. And it takes a long time because you got all these moving parts where, and like you said, you get a look into what their world looks like as they have to build it, as they have to produce it, package it, all the other things.
Yeah.
So there's a million variables that go into it. So it's kind of neat, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it from the fisherman standpoint of what do I need in this environment? What do I need in that environment? And, trying to put the ingredients together. So, I think we've got some really cool stuff. I mean, I've got 4 or 5 shapes that we're, hand pouring here.
Can you tell? I think we're good to go as far as saying, I don't know. I'm 80%. I'll take the blame if you're not allowed to talk about it yet, because I'm the one that's pushing it.
I think we are. Just, some things are not available for another month or a couple months, maybe ICAST-ish somewhere in the, this summer. But, we've got a 4.5-inch straight tail drop shot worm, and it catches them. I think there's going to be 8 or 9, 10 colors. All the colors that we know and use regularly, and probably a few additional colors that maybe just are a little bolder, a little bit, just a little bit more unique. And so, the drop shot worms one, I've got a jig trailer, and it's a kicker legs type jig trailer. We're calling it the ram tail craw. Just that,
You're finally embracing it. You're finally embracing the golden ram.
The golden
got the ram head jig head, and now you got the ram tail.
Yeah, ram tail craw and ram tail jig trailer here. And so it's basically it's a small compact crawdad chunk with kicking legs, and it has really good vibration, really good colors, really good size, to match what you want your jig to look like. And so it does a lot of the things that I really want other trailers to do. You take the best from the different trailers that you really like and kind of combine them into the trailer. So that's another one. We've got a Ned worm. We've got
oh, you are doing a Ned worm.
Well, yeah, we are pouring it here. So that's not one that they've got in production there yet.
Oh, but you're working on it.
Yeah, we've got one that I'm already using.
I like
it. And we've got a leech. We've got
dude, that used to be the deal when you guys first started going up to. So full disclosure, I helped with the Pure Fishing Pro staff in 2013 and 2014. Basically, I was the guy that when Ike broke all of his rods, I got them shipped and gave them back to him. And but I also carried baits, right? So like in the back of my truck, and I'd help and do stuff for social media. And those first couple years, I was like a crack dealer with the leech. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you guys kept going up there, and the leech just went away. Like everyone stopped using the leech, but the drop shot leech was the bait of choice. What happened to the leech, Cliff? Why is the leech no longer the go-to?
Well, it never disappeared from my arsenal, but it's not talked about. There's just some other good things that came out, is what it is. There's some other comparable things that caught them too. And so, but the one thing I didn't like about that is one, it was ugly. And two, it was stiff. And so it would not, if a smallmouth took it in and folded the bait over the hook, if you double hooked it, you're going to lose that smallmouth. And that happened frequently because of nose hooking and how that works. And so you would lose them occasionally because of that. And then you reel in a little donut worm. So that's the neat thing about the Sensation plastics is it's a lot softer. So if you double hook them, yeah, you still got potential to lose them, but it's so soft that it's likely to pin through, 2 layers of the leech or the the worm or that kind of stuff to still get that hook to do what it needs to do. So that donut worm factor is a lot less of a hazard on the Sensation plastics. So that was my biggest hazard with that original one. So it catches them, but every now and then, and man, when you lose a big one in a tournament, sometimes it messes up the group, sometimes you don't get another opportunity. And so just being able to try to eliminate the donut worm factor, and make it look prettier, shinier. There's just a lot of reasons to do that. Smallmouth are really have really good vision. And so the better it looks, the better it stinks, the softer it is. All those factors are really important.
All right. They have good vision, but help me out on this one. Over the last 4 or 5 years, the most productive, and throw like this smallie. Well, okay, we'll do like the slammer, the flatworm, the smallie smasher. There's a number of these out there but like to me, okay, I'm like Oklahoma, and they're like, I don't get why that shape is like so productive. It doesn't look pretty. It's just like a little strip. Now you've got different ribs and tails and all that. What makes that profile so deadly on the smallmouth because I mean we cover the tournaments. You can't help it. It's the same shapes that are winning it.
Well, part of it is moving water, and that's like,
okay.
See, I can even take you way back like 20 years before that.
Do it. Let's do it. What was it? Let's go.
The crosstail shad or the lake police, before it was out here, it was a Western deal called lake police. And
I've got a pack of those. I found them. I was like, what in the heck are these? I'm buying them. They're a Jackal crosstail shad, but they don't say Jackal on it.
Yeah. Before it was Jackal, it was a hand pour guy here pouring them in Arizona. Sweetwater was pouring them. And it's something that moves water. If you look back, like Kota Kiriyama was one of the first ones using that one out here. And, he talked about, the way that the tail pushes water. You don't really want it to fold up. When we start talking about 4.5-inch straight tail worms, you want them to be supple and fold. But when you're talking about that little stiff shape that's more like a goby is not it's not like a trout where it, real wavy swim. A goby is like a dart. It's like a stick, has no movement. You know what I mean? It basically has little short movements, does not swim. And so, I think that's a big part of it because, and a sculpin's the same way on the West Coast, where like when Kota won with that crosstail shad, there's sculpins up in that northern country. So, and they're basically a goby that has a little different colors and, but they're almost the same. So I think that's a big part of it. You want them to move water and not, use that tail to move water when it shakes, and less action is better, on some of those things. So, and it's a good size, smallmouth. While you could catch them on a giant glide bait, while you could catch them on, giant crankbaits or big jerk bait, they're aggressive at certain times. They really like that small profile stuff. Plus you want to maximize your hooking and landing ratio. You know what I mean? And if you're using 6-pound test or 8-pound test and a little tiny nose hook, you want something that matches that setup. And so, all those factors go into why that's so productive, why it works so well.
And you'll have all this stuff for the next stops.
Yeah.
But not everyone else will.
No, and they, they'll all have lots of good smallmouth tools, but I don't feel like I'm missing anything in my arsenal this time around. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go practice something that I'm like, I'm not sure if this is as good as what they're using. And so, it's just that Big Bite has something now that they didn't have in the past, and it catches them.
I like it. You have to be proud of that too. Have you done a lot of soft plastic bait design prior to this?
No, I never really have got to do much, especially in the soft plastic stuff. Mm-hmm. There's so many guys that pour, hand pours out west, and there's a lot of neat stuff that folks have done out here, and so I've used a lot of it, and you get experience with it, but I haven't poured any of it myself until recently. And I got a buddy, he does the pouring. I just listen and give input and watch and we tinker with it. So
that seems way more complex than I thought it was at first. Like I said, I dabbled in the balsa bait, and then after like 3 attempts, I was like, oh, just buy it. And then when you start doing the soft plastics, like I said, we have a rule: if a dog barks, you got to show it on BTL, if possible. Hey. Oh my gosh!
Hey, hey.
Is that a him or her?
That's Jackson. It's a him.
Is he a lion dog?
Nobody would be. He'd be more like a duck and goose retriever.
Oh, okay. Do you have a lion dog?
No, but most of my friends do out here. But he's just a black lab.
Okay. Anyway, but the soft plastic is hard to get right when you're pouring that stuff yourself. It's not like something that you just do. Like, you get someone who knows how to do that, and I'm like, okay, I understand why guys become legends out on the West Coast for their hand pours.
Yeah, and there's a ton of things that don't work when you're he's like, do that. We'll try. And then this is what happens. And I mean, there's a lot of dead products, in the shed that we're working in. It's tricky. And this sensation plastic does not obey the rules of normal hand pouring. It's actually pretty hard to use, but when it comes out, it's really good stuff. So it's been tricky to use, but like I said, I have full confidence in it, and it's been catching a lot of fish for me this season.
I like these conversations and talking about this because it's showing the value of a professional angler on a pro staff. And you hear people say, well, look at all the YouTube views guys are getting. And are the tournament guys as valuable as they used to be with all the but like, this is the stuff like by yourself on a lake, on Lake Ontario, going through it, R&D, working with the company, having a buddy, hand pouring, going through shape designs, that when you see the new sensation packs and you see these baits, you don't realize like what's behind it. Like, that's you behind it, and Drew Cook and the actual guys that Big Bite pays. That's the value of someone who guides for a living, that tournament fishes for a living, that knows they'll have to use this bait when there's a Fox camera in their boat and $100,000 on the line. Dude, that's like proving the value for the company and the legitimacy behind the bait, in my opinion.
Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago when there's a million baits out there, and there's a million tinkerers, but sometimes they just don't have all the ingredients. You know what I mean? They don't cover all the bases. The hookup ratio, the scent, the softness, the floating, it just the shape's not quite right, or it's too much plastic, too little plastic. There's just those things by spending years and years and lots of time on the water that you kind of learn, no, it needs to be more like this, or that. You can already see the problem in a certain design or something like that. So I guess that's what makes us valuable.
Go with it, Cliff. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where a pro fisherman, you don't click the clock and say, okay, you're on the clock, go ahead, let's use our deal. You gotta produce something, and fish catches and stuff that catches fish, sells baits. If you can sell something the first time or the first package, but if it doesn't produce, then you're not going to have that mainstream, that thing that just stays in your arsenal. So you got to have something really works good.
Now, the next key, Cliff, is you have to design a bait that works good but has zero durability, but works so good that people are still willing to buy the package even though they know they're only going to catch 5 fish on it. It's the Yamamoto Cinco. I'm convinced that Gary was like, these things are great, but I need to sell more packs. And they're like, yeah, we can make it rip on every 12-incher. And he's like, I'm sold. Make that formula.
And that's what a bait company fights. They have input from weekend anglers. Man, these things don't hold up, but
they catch fish.
The pro angler, and we have gone round and round about this factor, but I want soft. You want your hook to blow through that thing. You know what I mean? If you got to lose a worm and catch the fish, it's worth it. But if your worm, like I was talking about the donut worm factor, I mean, what's the point? You know what I mean? Yeah. So softness works. And, when a fish grabs that bait, like, soft is it's another ingredient for them to hold on to it. And, it's better. If you look at the 10 world's best soft plastics, if you could list them, you would go, wow, that's interesting. That one does tear apart. That one doesn't last. That one, when you catch them, it blows through. You got to use another one. I mean, I dare you to, off camera, think of the 5 best things in other bait companies. And it's like, man, it's soft. It doesn't last, but I get an extra pack of them because it works.
Yep. All right, I'm going to have to make some calls before this Oneida Open coming up in 3 weeks as soon as the show's over, Cliff.
If you get them to me, I will be. No. No.
I just said you can't get it unless you ask. I'm gonna have to make some calls and ask because I like it. Hey,
it's in such high demand. We've been melting down stuff we've already made to try to remake something that I actually want. So
like I said, I got my eye on one of them. I would show it, but I don't. Like I said, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't know what I am allowed, but it looks good. Like I said, it's familiar looking stuff, but it looks right. Hey, are you good to stick around for another segment? Because I want to talk about something. You might not even want to talk about it, but it's something that I've noticed over the course of your career, how you've simplified something. Specifically, there's a couple other anglers that I've ever seen that do it. And I just want to kind of get your thoughts on it because it has resulted in some coin in your pocket. And it's no secret. But if you're good for another segment, I'll leave that as a lack of a better word, as a cliffhanger, and then we'll be back. We'll be back for the final segment of BTL after this. BTL on a Wednesday with Arizona's Cliff Pirch. We'll see you guys in a couple seconds here.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer, so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. Two sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
All right, we're back. BTL on a Wednesday. Talking with Arizona's Cliff Pirch. You still do the hunting guide stuff, Cliff?
Yeah, a little bit. Mainly just in the fall, the late off season, November.
Like, how many trips will you like do a year? Is it the same guys that you kind of come back year after year, or do you like act like, can you go into the gas station there in Arizona and it's like hunt with Cliff?
No, there's lots of hunting guides, but I do it with Arizona's a lottery state, so you have to put in for the draw to get a tag. And so, I've got a handful of fishing friends that put in every year. This year, not too many tags. Last year they had a few. This coming season, Happy from Power Pole has got a tag in a really good unit in November. So we're excited about that. Every time Happy comes, we get a lot of good stories. We have a great time, and man, he's shot some great bulls. And so I've even got an Arkansas buddy there back close to your neighborhood that comes out and he's a songwriter. There's actually several songs about Happy, the Power Pole service guy, elk hunting. So if you can imagine, and if you know Happy, good stuff. So he's going to be coming in November. I just do, I might do a September rut hunt. A couple of kids have the juniors hunt in October, and then I'll do a little bit of guiding in the late archery and the late rifle in November and December, but I don't do a ton of it. Excuse me. I got a lot of friends that do, really spend all fall guiding. I just do a handful of things. I still try to get the U.S. Open in and fish a few events.
Are you going to get to fish that on Mojave this year?
I hope so. I put a deposit in on it, and that'll be a new thing. I have fished a one bass tournament over there in Mojave years ago and did good. Got top 5 or something. I can't even remember, but it's a tough lake. It's got some big ones in it, but there's not a lot of fish, and it's kind of Lake Mead like in its population, but it'll probably take a little higher weights, but you'll probably see less fish catches.
Okay, because we had Billy on. Well, Billy's a tournament director, though, so Billy's going to talk it up. He was talking about like 9, 10, 12, 15-pound smallmouth, just blowing them over the gunwales monster.
Yeah.
But he did say it could be kind of tough, but it's going to be, it's tricky too. It's not just going to be a wide open blowout slugfest U.S. Open, but you might see a 4 or 5 pound, 6 pound smallmouth.
Yeah. And we probably will see a few of them, but if we went in, say February, March, April, you'd see some giant bags of smallmouth, 25 to 30 pound bags of smallmouth, but, you won't see that. I don't think you'll see that in the fall. Yeah. It'll probably be a little stingier, and but you will see a few giants show up, I'm sure.
You've won three of those, or 2 of them?
Yeah. I've had 3 U.S. Open wins. I've been second 3 times, twice by like an ounce or 2 or 3, and it's been a really good event for me. So Lake Mojave's a little different, but I still feel like on a desert Southwest lake, I got a chance, you know what I mean? And so I'll go spend a little time and refamiliarize myself with it. But it's different than Lake Mead. It's not a fluctuator. A lot of our Western reservoirs fluctuate. So it's a different level every year. You got different stuff you're fishing every year. Lake Mojave is like Lake Havasu. They keep it at the same pool or similar, within about 4 feet all the time. It's one of those that they just keep the water in. It's a little different too. It's got a really good trout population up towards the Lake Mead Dam.
So you can catch them like in the lake?
Oh yeah. No, it's
like
great
trout. Like you'll be bass fishing and boom, rainbow.
Oh yeah. And giant rainbows too. And I mean, it's
no joke.
It used to be one of the world class rainbow, trout fisheries. And it has kind of come back in recent years.
Wait, jerkbait, spinbait, catch them on all that stuff?
Yeah.
Crankbait?
Yeah. I mean, I think the state record came from there, and I'm talking like a crazy size state record.
Like a 30-pound rainbow or something?
Like giant rainbows. Yeah.
No joke. In the actual lake. You're not talking about like below the dam. Like you could be in a tournament and be like, there's one, get the net. And then it's like a rainbow.
You could, but it would more likely be, closer to the upper end where that cold water comes out of Lake Mead, at different time of the year, you probably could catch them anywhere, but mainly probably going to be that real upper end that has that cold water. I'm
trying to think if you guys ever fished a tournament where there were trout that were available to catch, and I believe didn't Jason Chrissy catch one in like Bull Shoals or Table Rock or?
Oh, he sure could have. He sure could have.
Have you guys ever fished one that had like an actual population of trout?
Oh, dude, like I fished a bass open like maybe 20 years ago on Lake Shasta, and you were more likely to catch a giant rainbow or a salmon on your jerkbait than you were a spotted bass. And man, they're crazy to catch. They're fun, but that you can't just lip them and grab them like a bass. So I mean, you get to the weigh-in, and about half the field has treble hooks somewhere in their body from catching a 4 to 6 pound rainbow or something. You know what I mean? So
that sounds fun.
Oh, it is fun. And if you were just fun fishing, you know, it's a blast. But in a bass tournament, you know, a rainbow's a mess. But it's just part of it. I caught a Columbia River's another one. I caught a salmon and a steelhead in the tournament before. And like a wild one that like jumps like 4 feet in the, you know,
a steelhead, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wild, you know, wild steelhead is like hooking a sports car. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. But you know, you're lucky to get your rattle trap back, you know?
Huh. Clay on the instant feedback, he said he caught a rainbow on a buzzbait in New Mexico.
Clay Randall. They like his dad.
Clay Williamson is what he signed up. He signed in as Clay Williamson.
Okay, well, it might be a different Clay, and it does happen. My buddy Clay Randall and his dad Reese, they were watching these trout blow up and up there, and they tied on a buzzbait and they started just catching giant trout, big trout. I'm not talking stalkers. I'm talking giant ones, and so it is definitely a thing up there. You know, you got to be. It's got them. It's not a not everywhere has 4 pound and 6 pound trout. You know.
Yeah, we have a listener who also claims that he gets on a real, like a consistent, like yearly topwater, like spook bite on walleye.
Oh yeah, well,
like at night, like big walleye.
I haven't never done that, but it sure could. I know guys have got on in them, you know, with a jerk bait, like on St. Clair, things like that. So it certainly happens.
You guys have, the West Coast has a lot of those more interesting species you can catch, like those kind of odd fish.
It's different. You know, like, I mean, heck, I was on Pickwick last week and I caught as many catfish as I did bass, but you catch sauger, drum, catfish, white bass, stripers or wipers or hybrids or whatever they are, you know, so you catch a ton of wild stuff there. Someone caught a sturgeon. I think Clark Winland told me he caught a sturgeon.
And, on Pickwick?
So, yeah. So, I mean, you
no joke.
Rivers, there's all kinds of weird stuff out there. It's just different weird stuff, I guess.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever hooked across the country? Like, have you ever hooked anything where you're like, what the heck is this?
Weirdest thing I've ever hooked. Man, I wish I had time to think about that because I probably got some really good ones, but offhand.
Well, you do have time. There's a podcast. We can go however long we want. We can.
Yeah, I mean, birds.
I think I learned a new word. Is it pontificate? I think it is. No, there's some word that Frank Scalish used, which means to belliverate. Bloviate. That was it. Bloviate, which means to talk in circles without actually saying anything to take up the allotted time. So we could bloviate until you can think of the good stories.
Craziest thing I've ever caught. Oh man. Like I said, this needed to be something to think about.
Have you ever had the muskie eat the smallmouth deal? Because I've always seen people like that, but I've never had that happen.
Okay, I got a better one. Okay, last summer I went tuna fishing, had a shark eat the tuna, take a bite, you know, not eat it, but take a bite. I've had the muskie get the smallmouth. The craziest one was I was fishing a tournament on Roosevelt, my home lake, a night tournament, like maybe 10 years ago. And I found one spot where I caught like a 9-pounder in practice, bass, you know, giant largemouth. And so I went back there in the tournament. First cast, I caught a 7-pounder. And then I didn't catch anything else. And then I left it. So let's see if I'll leave for a little while and see if another big one loads up there. I go there, I hook it. And this is in the dark. It's gotten dark now. The second fish. I hook a fish, and my buddy Reese is my team partner, and I'm like, it's coming to me. I'm like, man, I don't think it's a big one. I got it about halfway back, and I'm like, I think it's like 2-pounder. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's like heavy. And then I got no control over it. Well, after a little bit of a battle, I'm like, dude, it's like a 10-pounder. And then I realized, no, it's too big. And pretty soon, about a 40-pound flathead comes to the surface. So I'm like, oh, dang it, it's a flathead. He goes to put the net down. I'm like, no, go ahead and net it, because I don't want to wrestle this thing. Let's get it. And he goes to net it, and the flathead opens his mouth up, and a 2.5-pound bass comes out of his mouth. And the catfish was never hooked. He just had the largemouth in his mouth, and it's a 2.5. It's like a 17, 18 incher. Yeah, it's a 17-inch bass. It's a giant one. And all he did was when he went to net it and kind of touched it with the net, he just opened his mouth, and this old half-mashed largemouth came swimming out of there. I mean, it was bizarre.
Did you weigh it in?
Well, no. Luckily, we cooled it, but I did put it in the live well, and it was in bad shape. But and that's another thing I learned from it. Like, if you ever see a bass that has like let's see if I can get my hand on the camera. I can't find the camera. Okay, like a horseshoe-sized.
Yeah, I see that all the time.
Yeah, like a horseshoe-shaped deal where his scales have been like really roughed up or removed on his side. That's what he looked like. It's from being in the mouth of a catfish, and it's kind of something that you see. It's fairly common,
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just got away. He got bit, held for a little bit, and somehow got away. But I was like, oh wow, that's what that is. So that was a pretty crazy catch. I think I can.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that's definitely goes up in the top 10 crazies for me. Yeah.
One of the things that I teased before the break that I wanted to mention, just kind of mention as we close, is I'm a big proponent of the BMR squared pattern: bridges, marina, riprap, and ramps, just as far as catching fish. And obviously one of the guys that used to be
you guys have been holding out on me. You didn't even give me that acronym. Like,
I've invented that acronym.
I know, but like, how have you not shared that with me before?
I've talked about it on the show occasionally. I'm like holding out for the manifesto. I did a thing with Bass U on it, but I'm like kind of holding out on the BMR squared manifesto. It's how you can catch fish 12 months out of the year. Like I said, I've proven over the last 5 years it's a fantastic way to finish first out of the money. That's kind of how I preface it. but one of the guys that really seemed to be able to understand and make the most out of a really good bridge bite was Amart. Aaron seemed to be like a master at that, of putting himself in position to win. Obviously, we've seen what he did he almost did it at the Arkansas River. We saw what he did it at the Pittsburgh Classic number of times throughout. But you're also a guy that through covering this and fishing and watching it, you like a good bridge, and you're not afraid to hang out around a bridge for an extended period of time, even if that's not what you're, quote, supposed to be doing. Is that kind of a West Coast thing, or is that just kind of your style, or am I way off the map and I just happened to watch you the 2 times you fished a bridge?
No, it's all, a bridge has always got fish, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a time of year. Usually it's a pinch point. Usually it's some cover in an area where the lake has narrowed, so it kind of condenses them. And a lot of times there's current. There's just a number of reasons. You have a vertical structure, so that it doesn't really matter. There is the proper depth at some point where the fish want to be. So there's a number of reasons why a bridge is good, a marina, a boat ramp, all those things that you mentioned. Those are staples for me. And Rob Newell used to call me Clifford Marina Perch, because like that, if I could find a marina. The one thing I like about a marina is that there is a population of bass somewhere in there, and they're rarely going to leave there. They might move in there, but usually there's a population of bass. If you can't find them, then you could put your head down in a 1, 2, 3 acre area and know that you're going to put your bait in front of a bass eventually. So, that's something I have used a lot, and a lot of guys do. It's not any secret or anything, but those are good areas. It just when you don't know what to look for, and that's the other thing. I think that's probably the biggest reason I do it is I'm going to foreign country. Like I don't get to fish my home lakes. I don't get to fish Lake Mead or Lake Havasu or Roosevelt or the California Delta. I don't get to fish those places anymore where I know the things go down and where you have confidence in that. So if you see something like a marina or a bridge, you know, it becomes useful because then I don't have to know the you know, the bay where the grass is at. I don't have to know where, it always goes down here or there. I don't know those things when I go to these foreign lakes. So even after doing it for years and years, you get some ideas, but you still don't know, you know, the community holes, or that, you know, you show up on one of those eastern lakes. I don't know where, you know, so-and-so won 10 years ago, but you come out here out west and I know all the deals from back in the day, you know, but I just don't get to use those. So I think when you see a bridge, you see a marina, you see a boat ramp, you see a road, you know, riprap, things like that. It's a familiarity that you know how to fish, and you know that there's going to be some fish somewhere on it. Like you said, you've used it, and you know, it'll pay off for you because you don't have to know every little secret. I think that's a good formula you got. You got to figure out how to get out of the money deal, but
yeah,
it's
you know what I mean, though? I always end up with like 12.5 pounds.
Well,
I got to figure out. Well, I know how you do it, but I'm not going to, I'm not even going to go into it. I know how you do it. You have to have a pair. It's basically what it comes down to. You got to put the fairy wand out, and you got to have a pair and fish for what big fish eat.
It depends. I've top 10'd with a fairy wand in foreign places where you're not supposed to use a spinning rod on a bridge or something. You know what I mean?
You've also top 10 by putting it down, though.
Yeah. I mean, you know, put a flipping jig in your hand and don't let it out. You know, or a super spook, or a, you know, some spinner bait, you know, a jerk bait, something that produces winds. You know, eventually you're going to get that class of fish you need a lot of times.
Like I said, I think it's a good system. I need to refine it before it needs to be refined, because it's consistently putting me in the ballpark without the results. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in the game, but I'm like Ichiro. I'm just hitting slap singles every time up. And yeah, you're going to get some RBIs, but you got to be able to hit for power occasionally.
Yeah, it's a good points getter, and maybe you just need it to be part of your game and part of your strategy, and not the entire strategy. Maybe that's
Cliff. I've learned one thing: if you're on stage and the tournament and the weigh-in guy uses the exact phrase, quote, "valuable angler of the year" points,
you've just missed a lot of money.
You have just missed cashing a check or making a top 10. If you hear those and you're on stage with your fish, that is a 100% surefire way to know that you are not fishing the next day.
Your gas money.
Yeah, those valuable angler of the year points.
Nice way to say thank you, but we'll talk to you
later. Anyway, what else you got? So you said all these the new shapes, the sensation, which is like the scent, like the play on words, scent, and then sensation, coming out soon. Some of it's still in R&D. Some of it's still getting hand poured by your buddy in the garage, trying to figure out what's right and what's not. But there's 3 or 4 shapes coming out before smallmouth season, or right now? Because right now is smallmouth season.
Yeah, it's a rush. It's a rush to try to get it. You know, like, you know, you talking about trying to get some before you go to Oneida. I'm hoping I have the things, but I've talked to Valster and said, man, they're making it. It is in the works right now. So if we can get some of it, it'll be exciting. I don't know, public wise, it might take till the end of the summer. It might be available a little bit sooner. I know, you know, they'd like to be able to offer it when they talk about it in, you know, places like iCast. So, you know, and this stuff, it makes you crazy. And then you take what's going on in our country right now with shipping things and product. It throws a whole wrench in everything. I've been waiting on that ram head to get in stock at Tackle Warehouse forever. And, you know, they have some finally. It's a great little light wire Ned rig head, you know, kind of a medium wire. So it kind of covers it when you're fishing 8-10 pound test. But it's it's been crazy how hard it is to get in stock, and it's shipping issues. It's
across the board.
It's material availability. There's just crazy things involved. And so, I don't know what that'll do with the Sensation plastics, but hopefully we're on the downhill side where that stuff's going to be available.
Well, Mr. Pirch, I greatly appreciate the time. I enjoyed our conversation here on BTL, and thanks for getting up at 6 a.m. to jump on the show. I've had a couple West Coast guys on, and they're like, "So that's 6:30 my time, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, I know, and like I don't know what it was like. Today was a little harder, but every other day this week I'm up at 5. But today it was like, I gotta get up, or Matt's gonna. He's gonna be like stressing out. So yeah, I was a little slow today.
All right, I appreciate it. Are you gonna be at ICAST?
Probably.
All right, then I'll probably see you there.
Yep. Yeah. Is it? I don't even know. Is it like before?
It's like I think it's right. Where are you guys? You guys are the middle of July, right? Like July 14th or something.
I think because Chad said he's fishing that Oneida tournament, so we're the week after Oneida on St. Lawrence,
and then the week after that is ICAST.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought.
Yep. All right. All right. Well, I'll
good.
see you there. Have a good morning.
All right. Save me a few of those oxblood worms that come from Big Bite right on.
Oh, you started cutting out right at the end. What'd you say again? It sounded important.
No, I said save me some. If you get a shipment of the oxblood worms from Big Bite Sensation, save me a few packs after Oneida, just in case I don't get them.
I feel like you have more pull than me. I feel like since you
I hope you're right. I don't have them.
I wouldn't feel right if I got it before Cliff Pirch. That just wouldn't be right.
Well, it's hard to get, and they're hard to make. Everything I've got, I'm like repiecing together in each tournament, like because we're hand pouring them and like one at a time, 4.5-inch drop shot worms. It's hard to have a good supply.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'd heard about this stuff. Like I said, I wanted to get you on, and then I called and I was like, can we talk about it or whatever if it comes up? Because I liked and he's, they're like, yeah, you can mention it. But now I'm like in a semi panic, like, hey, probably need to make a couple calls as soon as the show's over just to see where it stands. So I have some of the smashers in the 3 and 4, 5. I know that was like the very first test run that they did last year when they started. So I have some of those, but it's not, I don't think, as refined as the final product.
Yeah. Well, and they made some trick sticks out of it. And I started out with about maybe 1.5 gallons of them. I'm down to about maybe 30 or 40 trick sticks left.
Yeah,
So
that's what I did. I cut them in half and used them as Ned baits.
It's really good Ned bait, really good Nico rig. I mean, I have smashed them on a Nico on that. So it's been really good. It's a good one. You probably need to make sure you got some of those full size.
I do have a bunch of those full size ones. Like I said, I cut them in half and it was using them as the Ned. It's weird. I mean, there's just certain stuff that works and it works and
it does.
I mean, it's not like sexy, wiggly, fantastic looking stuff at first. You put it in the water though, and like what you just described, it mimics what they're eating the correct way.
Yeah, it's the dumbest looking thing on earth, but that's what they want. They like that.
There's the marketing strategy. The dumbest looking thing on earth. The new bait.
Yeah.
But it catches fish, and that's all that counts. That's the name of the game. Catching fish, not fishermen.
Yeah, the Ned rig is the dumbest thing ever, as far as what it looks like, but it catches them.
Well, that's like that BFE that Hallman had designed, and we were looking at it in the pool, and it was like, well, it really doesn't do much. And Hallman's like, that's the point. It's not supposed to. Like everything that if you look at like the most popular stuff, like very few of it is exceptionally wiggly over the course of history, because like wiggly stuff means two things. Like it can bite or pinch you, and it's harder to digest, and then it like draws attention to itself. It's like the more you got stuff down there flailing around, like a lot of the stuff that is good to eat is like, hey, let's not flail around down here because Joe got eaten last week because he was hopping around too much.
Yeah, there's some wisdom to that, and sometimes you got to go one extreme or the other. And that's where you let the fish tell you, action or no action. And that's why we have so many varieties of baits and stuff. So kind of got to have both ways, but there's definitely a time where one works better than the other.
There it is. All right. Appreciate it. Have a good day, Cliff.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
That was none other than the Golden Ram, Cliff Pirch, covering a whole bunch of different topics there, but I always like talking with him. And that dude, like, he comes off as mild-mannered and stuff. And like, we've talked about this before. He'll sit around at some media events and talk about, like, getting stalked by mountain lions while he's out elk hunting and spending the night in trees with, like, bears and stuff. And, like, I think he was, like, a state champion wrestler. And he's, like, the perfect example of a guy that comes across as super mild-mannered but is just a genuine badass. So there's really no other way to say it when it comes down to it for the Golden Ram, Cliff Pirch. That's all we got for BTL on a Wednesday. Tomorrow, like I mentioned before, Uncle Frank Scalish, taking care of some business in Ohio. So it is a pre-recorded show, but it is a cool pre-recorded show because it features his cameraman, and we go into some of the behind-the-scenes things, some of the funny stories, some of the cool stories, how Frank Scalish really kind of works with LureNet and all of his informational videos and stuff. So that will be out bright and early, 8:30 a.m. tomorrow on Thursday. Also, I'm working on a big giveaway. A big giveaway with Big Bite and a couple of the other sponsors, Denali through BTL, as we are almost to 2,000 likes and reviews on iTunes. And I talked to Mark a couple weeks ago, and I was like, hey, I remember when we were getting to 1,000, you like did this deal with this big giveaway. I was like, I'm like running the show now. So I'm like, how important is it to get these up? And he's like, yeah, you ought to do that. So I'm working on a giveaway for when we hit 2,000 reviews on iTunes. And like I said, it won't just be for people who do new reviews. I'll do 2 giveaways. If you left a comment before or you leave a comment new, there'll be 2 different giveaways. So be on the lookout for that. Also, new clothing coming out after ICAST, sometimes a retro BTL hat, which is kind of what I've gotten some questions about, and people seem to like the old yellow and black BZ stuff. So BTL on a Wednesday. Tomorrow, Frank Scalish, another good week of BTL. Thanks to Miles Berghoff for jumping on in the first segment, as well as Mark Jefferies talking about his near miss in the bowling, but still cashing a check. Good to see him out there enjoying retirement and bowling. So this has been another edition of BTL. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. See you.